I wanted to, Steve, I just wanted to thank you for sending the proposal over in advance of the meeting. It helped us figure out where we are and what we need to do. I really don't have a whole lot of questions about it. Let me just go ahead and confirm that I understand what it does. It was just a spreadsheet without any contract language, but what I understand that it does is it added a $2.70 increase per hour across the entire table that we put in the contract last December, plus a 10% increase to sergeants, and adopted the city's proposal in terms of 1 step per year for 10 years, plus migrating over a 3-year period to at least the revised table. Did I miss anything?
The part about prior law enforcement experience, the chief has the power to select a higher rate.
Right. I understand that, but I'm talking about the table that you proposed, that I effectively summarized it in English. Is that right?
Correct. And I believe the 10% was just to get the sergeants to where they should be in the steps. It wasn't going to be like like the across the board raise. It should be considered in the same way.
I understand that. Now, what we did, we took a quick look at costing it out in terms of the number of hours per year that each officer works times the number of officers, and the $270 an hour came to $224,000, which if you add that on top of I think our proposal, not including benefits and not including anybody outside the bargaining unit, our proposal was about $137,000. So that would get us way over $350,000, not including anything for the sergeants. And I can tell you right now that you know, that's I think way over whatever we could conceive in a budget, but we understand what you're trying to do there. One thing that you have to keep in mind is whatever raise we do this year, both in terms of the table, you know, the steps and implementing the table, that's embedded in all future years too. So, you know, it needs to be considered on a long-term basis, not just, you know, year one. And of course, we've got a contract that's going 3 years. So, anything else you got to add to that? I know Greg Officer Burnside gave a speech last time. Is there anything that you see that would have us consider such an extraordinary increase in 1 year?
It's taken, the first step is quite significant, but it's not something that's just happened. We're trying to recoup from 10 years.
Well, I understand that, Officer Burnside, but here's what's happened here. You guys proposed the table less than a year ago, last December, after everybody already knew about the minimum wage increase. We've been working hard at trying to get to that table, and now you're looking at putting $270 an hour on top of every single cell in that table. So that's something that is extraordinary and way different than what you had at the table just last December. The second thing is that we're looking at what our proposal, you know, I think there's some things we can tweak, but our proposal I think is fair compared to what the current local market is, where we've got a decent starting wage there, plus anybody that hadn't hit the 10 years is going to get, under our proposal, I guess your proposal too, a 5% increase in year 2 and another 4% increase in year 3 when you add the step to sort of the making up to get to the table. So, you know, we just think that it's very fair. And one thing in bargaining you want to do, you don't want to pay any less than market. because you got to be able to attract and retain good employees. But on the other hand, to be fair to the taxpayers, you don't want to pay any more than market. And what we're looking at, our proposal with, I think is something that gets us in the market to attract and retain quality officers. And, the adding another, $250,000 on top of that, what we've already proposed, I think is just excessive and gets the pay rates above market, which is certainly something that the taxpayers shouldn't have to fund. But anyway, let's do this. I don't want to just, go back and forth about that. I mean, we're here, we're trying to aggressively, get to a contract with a step plan that's embedded from now on. We have offered something that's going to cost, like I said, not including the cost of benefits and not including people outside the bargaining unit. What we proposed adds almost $140,000 to next year's budget. But let me see what we can do. We've been able to get a little advance work on this because you guys did send us something ahead of time. But let's caucus for a little bit, and then we'll come back hopefully with a counter proposal.
Well,
You okay with that?
Yes, sir. I just like to say one thing. The $2.70, that's what the city agreed to give all the other city employees. We're just trying to keep pace with them.
I understand, but the other city employees aren't getting a step plan like the police officers are, plus a significant increase right off the bat for many of the folks. I mean, it's just a different scenario entirely. But we understand where that's coming from. I'm just saying that it would, I think, break the bank if it's added to what we've already proposed.
The numbers I come up with, you've got CARES Act money available.
Well, we have some money available, and that's what we're putting on the table. But, like I said before, our understanding is that that money is going to infrastructure projects, and I don't know what there is in there. And, what we'll look to do, I'm looking to maybe set a shade meeting next Monday. So, we can have discussions, but right now, we're doing something that's in what we think is a reasonable budget, and to make the Lake City Police Department stay within the labor market in the local area, which it needs to do. And we are catching up. We've got some extraordinary increases in year one for a lot of people. And then we've got the 5% and 4% in the next 2 years. It's built into our proposal. But I understand where you're coming from on the sergeants, because it's not terribly fair to have sergeants supervising somebody that's making more than they are. So, these are things that we're looking at and things that we're potentially going to address. But let's caucus, and we'll come back with something.
I'll just ask, what was the new money that was coming from the federal government? I don't understand that's not earmarked for first responder or not earmarked for salaries. It's earmarked for infrastructure. We're just asking for our share of the CARES Act money that was put out to help cities supplement first responder incomes. And if you look at the numbers I sent you in year one, it does show an increase of $301,641 to the budget. But year two, that drops to 72,000. Year three, to 47,000.
Yeah, but the year one numbers carry over. I mean, it's just that those numbers are added to the amount that you're talking about, the 300,000.
But if we're not training a dozen or more officers each year at $18,000 to $20,000 each to train them.
No, I understand that. And what we're trying to do is to have a high enough pay scale where we can attract and retain officers, so we don't have to have a lot of turnover.
We agree. That's what we're trying to get in place too, and where our officers don't have to rely on having to work overtime and off-duty jobs to support their families.
Well, I'm going to say we're looking at what's in the labor market, what's in the vicinity, and we've got to be competitive. We know that. We know we've got to have a step plan. we know we've got to have the prospect when we hire somebody that they're going to get increases on a regular basis that they can predict. But we can't pay more than market either. It's not fair to the taxpayers. So we're trying to hit that sweet spot where we're paying enough to attract and retain good officers without overpaying, you know, in that situation. And of course, you know, you got the same situation we've got where you've got to have your members ratify a contract, and we've got to have our city council ratify it as well. So, you know, there's some constraints there.
So we're gonna caucus.
Yeah, let's caucus. You know, like I say, because we got your proposal ahead of time, we were able to look at some things, and we need to talk about what we want to do, and you know, maybe tweak some things and get back to the table here. Hopefully it won't take us more than about 10 or 15 minutes.
Okay, thanks. Matt,
Are we all set?
Sir, I think.
Okay. Steve, we've messed with our counter proposal to give you another counter proposal. And it's there to, we've got it printed out, I think, to hand to you guys. And I'll walk through it for you. It's something that has a significant additional expense from our end. And I think our calculations are that it's going to add in each year of the term of the contract, $174,000 plus additional cost of benefits, plus whatever is added, for non-bargaining unit employees to keep pace, plus whatever kind of stepping, all the increases in years 2 and 3. One thing you got to remember is any kind of increase we do this year, it's embedded for each future year. And while, CARES Act money may be used for this year, it is not an every year thing. We've got to be able to have a sustainable pay plan that the city can fund. Do y'all have it in front of you now?
Yes.
Okay, let me go through, done a couple of things to Article 6 is really materially no different, except in 6.7, we took out the assignment pay because in the current contract, there's language that says that the pay in the grade 11 supplants the additional pay in Article 6. We took that language out too, so that, it becomes unnecessary to have it in either place. Then in what's new 6.7, shift realignment and assignments, we modified that to conform to the most recent MOU of the 56-day cycle, which I think we talked about last time. I didn't remember that there was an MOU, and I actually went back and looked at the MOU I had, and it was 84-day pay cycle, but apparently y'all had cut it to 56 after that. And let me show you, but get cut to the chase here on 11.1. We still have that table as is, as you guys proposed last year, even after the minimum wage had gone up. But we've done some tweaking to it, and you'll see that in the last bullet where it says employees will be slotted in the above pay plan by time and grade to advance 1 step per year for 10 years. Subject to the following exceptions, and here they are. Officers who are among pay grades 10 through 12 who move among those pay grades will be credited with time in grade as if they had remained in a single grade. I think Officer Burnside, you mentioned that last time, and we agree to that, so that if you go from 10 to 11 or 11 to 10 or 12 to 11, you're credited with time and grade of up to that point as if it had all been in one grade. So that's something that would keep somebody who moves sort of laterally like that from dropping down in compensation. Number 2, and this is how we're addressing the sergeant issue. We understand that sergeants, when you looked at our first proposal, some would be coming out making less than those they supervised. And we've added language that says officers who are promoted to sergeant shall be slotted into time and grade for year 6, while those who are promoted to sergeant in CID, OPS, or narcotics will be slotted into time and grade for year 8 with corresponding credit for time and grade. So that means that those slots are at the top, would be at the top of where the pay is for the officer, and then go up from there. Whereas if they're at the top of the officers, they wouldn't go up, but they do if they're promoted to sergeant. And that particular proposal, I think, adds about $36,000, not including the cost of benefits, to our prior proposal. So getting us to that $174,000 total that I just mentioned at the opening. And then we added what I think everybody sort of agreed to anyway: when hiring an officer with prior experience, police chief has discretion to slot the officer in a step above time and grade for year 1 with corresponding credit for time and grade. So if somebody's slotted in a year 2, the following year they go to year 3. So that's what we've done. And again, we have looked at this very carefully. We've looked at the total cost. You know, the numbers I'm throwing out there don't talk about anything about cost of benefits. And with the retirement plan, cost of benefits can be 25, 30% more than those numbers. You've also got the situation where lieutenants and officers above that are going to have to be adjusted to prevent, again, sort of an inversion where somebody's supervising somebody making more than they're making. And we think that's kind of the as far as we can go in terms of what's affordable. You know, the cost in year 2 is going to be that same number plus the increases for steps and for getting closer to the pay table, and year 3 even more. You know, it's going to probably end up being about at least $700,000 over the 3-year term of the contract. So we think this is very aggressive. We know that the officers are underpaid in many cases, to where, you know, we have to be aggressive to keep up with the labor market. And that's something that we have made sure we've embedded into these rates. In these rates, there are some people. I think there's one officer whose pay jumps $15,000 from in the first year. You know, there's some significant jumps to get us slotted in where they ought to be. And then for anybody not at the top of the grade, they're going to get a 5% increase next year, because it's going to be the 3% step plus the 2% closer to the table. And then in year 3, most everybody's going to get a 4% increase, 3% step plus 1% to get to the table amount, which we think is competitive with what's in the and you know, is within the local labor market, gives us parity to other similar law enforcement agencies in the Lake City area. So we think that this is very aggressive, very expensive, taking a big hit in year 1, and then that persists through the rest of the term of the contract. We hope, you know, this will be acceptable to City Council. We hope it'll be acceptable to your members. And if you look at the numbers, they are significantly more than what folks are earning now, and will keep going up. Any questions about that proposal? And I made an error that nobody's getting $15,000. There's somebody that gets almost $14,000 in the first year. It goes up to $15,000 more by the final year.
So one question on where you said sergeant start off at time and grade year 6.
Right.
Which would roughly be 50,500 to change.
Yeah, so it'd be the same as the very top of the pay grade 10.
Right. So does the sergeant go from 10 steps from that?
No, it doesn't go to 10 steps, but it'll take, even whether it's grade 6 or step 6 or step 8, it's going to carry you through the term of the agreement. And next agreement, we negotiate again.
Eric, can you supply us with the data you use for the pay analysis, please? Is that
we can.
Okay, thank you.
And we haven't done it for all 3 years. I just looked at the first year, but we're looking at increases. Now, those that are, at the bottom of the scale get a little less than $1,000 increase first year, but then of course they bump up 5 and then 4% more. And you've got varying increases from little below 1,000 to almost 14,000, but that all is because you have to make up for years people didn't get any kind of increase, and they're getting credited for time and grade.
Okay, if there's no other questions, do you mind if we take a brief caucus?
Yeah, and if you want to, yeah, you can take a brief caucus, and we'll stand down till you let us know that we're coming back on.
All right.
Hey, Steve, you all set?
We are, sir. Greg's got a question and a bit of explanation he'd like to pose real quick.
All right.
I mean, anything we do, we'd like to include everybody. And y'all's counteroffer leaves two of our sergeants out. Sergeant Milligan and Sergeant Byrd. Y'all's offer would have them at the 59,110, but you would also have Sergeant Register at the same amount. Nothing against Sergeant Register, but he's got less than 10 years with the agency and 2 years as a sergeant. So we would like to just take what you've agreed to, the 5527, and have that be 13,1, and just increase the steps out so we can get everybody where they should be in the step plan.
What, explain that to me. You mean, where are you talking about here? I didn't quite follow that.
What you were saying was 13, step 1 would be the same as topping out an officer, 50,527.
Oh, I understand what you're saying now. In other words, just slide that back down to where they have 10 steps instead of either
That
3 or
way,
5.
Sergeant Milliken could slide into his proper step, and Sergeant Byrd could slide into their proper step. It's only
Oh.
affecting 2 people.
Based on time and grade as a sergeant is what you're talking about.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is that a counter proposal?
Yes, sir.
And that's the only change from our proposal that you're putting in front of us today?
I think if we could agree on that, we could take it to a vote.
Okay. I tell you what, can we let us caucus for a few minutes?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Everybody all set?
Yep.
I think we're gonna reject what you proposed, but let me explain why. First of all, you know, we've went and looked at the numbers under our proposal. And a couple of the guys that get the biggest increase in terms of dollar amount for the 3-year term of the contract are Sergeant Byrd and Sergeant Milligan. Sergeant Byrd, even though he's topped out, gets an over $9,000 increase. And Sergeant Milligan gets almost an $11,000 increase because he not only gets pushed up, but then into the slot, but he has one more, you know, whoops, I missed it. And there are a handful of like 4 people that get more that were, you know, further off the grid or off the steps, but those guys get sizable increase over the 3-year term of the contract. And I think very well compensated. Sergeant Byrd at the end of the contract is going to make almost $60,000. So I think it's fair, and it may help for you to see the grid that we will prepare. Questions?
You say you have a grid to give us?
Yeah, you had asked that we could provide that information. And I said we would, but we don't have it all put together yet. We've got the year 1 done in it, but we don't have years 2 and 3 plugged in there with our current proposal. But you'll see that our spreadsheet does have what the undiscounted amount is. And for Sergeant Byrd, he goes up to 59,110 at the end of the 3 years from 5103, over $9,000. Milligan goes from 45,851 to 56,836. And they're comfortably ahead of the sergeants that are below them in the grid. So, you know, we don't see any reason to, you know, adjust them and change our proposal.
Aaron, do we need to show the grid that we have now, or should we wait until we get the grid with all short increases and everything? I don't think we have.
Chief,
Well,
can you see your microphone? Can you use your microphone? I can't pick you up.
Sorry. I think I'm the one that have the one in which I've written all over, the grid that shows all of the increases. I guess I could go make copies of this one with, you want to just wait until we get everything laid out and just see if we get copies made with this, what I have.
Well, I tell you what, you could, as long as they know that it's not quite complete, you've got in the spreadsheet that you've got shows what they're going to receive at the end of the 3-year term, because we get to the table at the end of the 3-year term, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So they'll see that. It's just that in the incremental increases for years 2 and 3, that's not quite finished, right? Isn't that, Chief Butler, is that?
The adjustments for a sergeant, I didn't do those calculations for the 2nd and 3rd year of the contract. I didn't have time to make the adjustments. The patrolman and year 1 is correct for everyone.
Okay.
Suggestion, why don't we complete that and then forward them a clean copy so they'll know exactly what they're looking at. There'll be nothing left for speculation.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I think that, you know, in fact, Chief Butler, I'd sent you an email during one of the caucuses to go ahead and make that full 3-year spreadsheet so that we have something that's accurate and that there's no, you know, misinterpretation.
Can I just ask a question real quick?
Sure.
I would use Sergeant Register as an example. He is the narcotics sergeant. So according to your thing, he would be slotted into step 8. Is that correct?
he gets a significant increase according to what I'm looking at.
And then he would also get time and service, which is 2 years. So he would go to slot 10.
No,
No, you're not gonna jump up, you're just gonna go, but he goes, if I'm looking at this grid right, he goes from current pay of, what is it?
Eric, if I could.
Yeah.
Under the sergeants, step 6, which we should probably for the sergeants call step 1, so everybody has it better. Only Bird and Sergeant and Robert Milligan would be anything above step 6. All the other sergeants, because they don't have time on,
Well,
Would start
Sergeant
at
Register
the-
is the narcotics sergeant.
would start at the minimum step, the patrolman. He's only been a sergeant 2 years. So if the agreement is that the narcotics sergeant starts higher than the patrol sergeant, that's different. But right now, the way the grid is, all sergeants, because sergeants have either 1 or 2 years of time and grade as a sergeant, not years of service, time and grade. They would all be at the minimum step for sergeant, except for the 2 senior sergeants.
So none of the sergeants get credit for the years they already have as a sergeant.
Yeah, they've already been a sergeant 1 or 2 years. That's how long they've been sergeants.
So
So everybody goes steps. Kevin, Connie,
Mike Lee and
Mike,
Robinson.
and Robinson go to step 6.
They go to step 6. The following year, they would go up 1 grade, except for, I think Robinson stays back because he's only been a sergeant a year. Then the following year, all the sergeants move up. Now, the ones at step 10 obviously don't move up because that's maximum step.
So they would go to 6 and Garrett would go to 8.
Wherever the agreement is,
Just
where he would start.
That's just task one. Okay.
Correct.
I guess I'm just reading the last part of that line with corresponding credit for time and grade.
Yeah, that's if you're in 6, you don't stay in 6 till you're a sergeant for 6 years. The next year you go to 7.
And like we were talking, I think the best thing to do is on the sergeant steps, we're start step, what we're calling 6 now, the 50,527, call that step 1. And then 2, 3, 4, and 5. So sergeants have 5 steps, not 10 like a patrolman. Sergeants start at step 1 every year, they go up and they max out after 5 years as a sergeant.
So every sergeant step, they're starting their step 1 this year.
And
To the step.
well,
You'd be at
Other
5,
than me and
you'd be at
Sergeant
max, right?
That was a confusion before we were looking. We thought we-
and Officer Burns said also on the grid I'm looking at, the Sergeant Register goes from 39,552 over the 3-year term of the contract to 50,527, $10,184 increase, one of the largest. It's probably the 6th largest increase of anybody in terms of dollar amount.
Well, at the end of the contract, wouldn't he actually be at step 8? The 54,650?
He's the task force sergeant.
If you step 1 step each year,
Yeah, I'd have to look. I don't have the all these numbers in front of me. All I can tell you is what the grid shows from beginning to end.
I think what would go a long way toward clarifying this is to
Yeah,
give them a chance here to go back and finish this spreadsheet and address some of these little things that we're just talking about here today, and then send y'all a copy of it. That way it'll be a little bit clearer and y'all can look at it. And if y'all have any questions, you can send them back. We have one more meeting scheduled, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, for like next week. Is that correct?
not that we're aware of.
yeah. We haven't pinned down we talked about doing it sometime next week, but we haven't actually pinned down a date yet. I think we need to do that if we can.
Yeah, because you did bring up a good observation about this step 8, Eric, with the task force. I want to look at that again
Okay.
and to see where we are with that.
But I think, thanks to y'all's perseverance and assistance, that, along with these guys, Perseverance and Assistant, that we're pretty close here. And I think that we can send you this corrected thing. They need a little bit of time to look at it and get it. And then you can look at it, any questions you have. And then if we can agree, we could have just one more meeting and hopefully come to agreement. Of course, then we have to take it back to the city. Y'all have to take it back to your folks, but appreciate everybody's cooperation.
The only thing we didn't mention today was the education stipend. Have you all just rejected that completely?
Well, I didn't see it in your counter proposal, but one of the things that concerns me is that I read that it was a statutory requirement with specific formula. And I have a concern that if you do something different, is that going to violate the Florida statute?
No, sir. We've been doing something different from day one, 3% increase in salary per degree. We're just asking for $1,000 per degree.
Well, we can look at it. If you want to put that in your next proposal, that'd be fine for us to look at again. But I didn't, that wasn't in the spreadsheet you had. Now, I know that I guess you were waiting for some information. Huh?
I sent you what you asked for. You asked for the numbers with the minimum wage increase.
Yeah, what we'd asked for, I thought, was just whatever counter proposal you had.
And I explained to you on the phone the other day, I've requested information.
Right.
Public records request and have not gotten responses.
Okay, see, I wasn't aware that you had requested anything.
I
But
told you on the phone the other day,
Yeah.
Mr. Polhauser.
I understand, but at that point, I wasn't aware that you had requested anything. Have you gotten what you had requested now?
I have gotten nothing. The only
Okay.
thing I got was the very first request I made. It was over 30 days to get it. And then when I got the document, I requested it on August 17th. The document was printed on August 15th, but it took me over 30 days to get it. And it was
Okay.
printed before I
Well,
requested.
can you have Steve or somebody shoot me a copy of the request and we'll take a look at it? I have not gotten it.
Do we have to give those
Talking about a
requests?
public records request with our city clerk's office, not with you, Eric. So it is through your public records request that you're making that request, not through our negotiating attorney.
Yes, ma'am.
That's true, but I wouldn't mind seeing it because I have no idea what you're talking about in terms of what you requested.
Yeah, so he's asking for a copy from you, exactly what you sent to the
Okay.
clerk's office, so if you could send that to him. Not that I want him to interfere with your request in the city clerk's office.
Can we also send that to the city manager, the interim, so that maybe they can look into what the delay is?
I'll be happy to look into it.
All right, with regards to another meeting, my last day is Thursday, or actually Friday. However, I'm not gonna leave this undone. JJ and I have a conference, a mandatory conference beginning next Wednesday. We have to be on the road. But I can be available Monday or Tuesday as it stands right now. I understand your shade meeting on Monday, correct?
Well, we're looking at that. What's the Tuesday works for me.
Hold on a second. Yeah. Unless we make it a 10 a.m. meeting on Tuesday,
I can do that.
because we have a pretty big event coming up, but we gotta wait and see this. Review your calendar for 10 o'clock.
I'll make my calendar fit what's best for the rest of the group. Just want to make sure that all you guys, you and.
We're good.
Up here,
We'll be here.
okay.
10 o'clock.
You say 10, chief?
10 on the 5th. Eric?
Yeah, the 5th at 10 o'clock. It's good with me.
Okay.
And I'm putting it on my calendar right now. Do you want me to let Audrey know?
Yes, please.
So are we about done for the day? If so, I had a comment I wanted to make. If that's whenever you're ready to make, let me know.
Yeah, I think I'm finished now that we've set the next meeting.
I just want to let the men and women of the Lake City Police Department and their representatives know that we really do care about you. We appreciate the hard work that you put forth each and every day. We know that you go out there, you put your life on the line, that you protect and serve the citizens of this community. And that I just want to let you know that the city, your chiefs, as well as your union reps are all working diligently to try to recognize and get you to a sustainable pay plan that gives you some parity for the job that you do. I don't know if at any time the people who go out and put their lives in danger and serve their community and protect their community, I don't know sometimes if there's ever enough that we can do to thank you for what you do. But I just want you to know that we realize that sometimes you hear a lot of comments. It's always about the people who don't appreciate what you do. But for everybody that speaks up and says they don't appreciate you, there's a ton of people who do. And I just want you to know that we do appreciate what you do. We probably don't tell you enough, but we thank you each and every day for going out and serving the community, protecting the community, and doing the things that you do. So I just want to give you that heartfelt thanks and appreciation.
Well, we certainly appreciate it on this side, and I'll tell you, as evidenced this past Friday, we all know that these guys are just that one call or that one on view activity away from being that next person. So,
Well, for those, and I'm sure you guys know far better than I, but the deputy in Nassau County just doing a routine traffic stop that was shot. That's a terrible thing.
yes, so just remember, and we know this from experience, there's no such thing as routine on those traffic stops.
That's absolutely great.
You don't know
Never
what's in there
gonna
and what they're doing, so.
happen. That's right. But we appreciate you.
Yes?
Adjourn?
Hello?
Yeah, meeting adjourned.
Adjourn?
Meeting adjourned. Yeah, see you next Tuesday at 10. I've sent Audrey an email, so we should get it public notice of it.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.